Another trap is increasing volume to supply demand. So like posting more work because you feel pressured to like post every single day or twice a day or something because you're trying to like make a splash in all the noise and just, your content's getting buried. So you're trying to like get on top of that by posting more and more and more. What that causes you to do is stretch for content rather than curating. So rather than only publish your best work and getting rid of anything that is B-roll stuff or just not as impactful.
Well, hey everyone. Welcome to episode 432 of F-Stop, Collaborate, and Listen. I'm your host, Matt Payne, and this week I'm excited to bring back one of my favorite human beings, Eric Bennett, for a conversation that goes deep into the impact of social media on photographers and our connection to nature. We also touch on a powerful initiative that Eric recently helped launch, a fundraiser in support of National Park Service employees impacted by massive layoffs. It's a great example of using photography and online platforms for real world good. But the heart of this episode is about how we as photographers can use social media more meaningfully without losing ourselves in the process. We talk about all of the traps of algorithm-driven culture, how to lead audiences towards more intentional engagement, and what the future might look like for photographers who want to stand out while staying grounded. But first, if you're a fan of lightweight tripods, I've got something for you. Before we dive in, a quick heads up. I'm giving away this amazing FLM travel tripod. It's super lightweight, ultra sturdy, and I've been loving mine for backpacking and travel. To enter, just subscribe to my newsletter and you'll find all of the links to that in the show notes. And if you don't want to wait, you can grab your own tripod today at flmcanada.com and use the code House of Payne for 10% off your entire order. All right, let's get into this week's episode with Eric Bennett. Eric Bennett, welcome back.
Thank you, dude. Thanks for making time in your crazy busy schedule. It was hard to find a slot.
I know, man. My schedule is pretty wild. Right now, I mean, we're in mid-March and coming up in a couple of weeks. I won't be home for like a whole month. It'll be pretty interesting.
Yeah. Seems like you're always out doing stuff now.
Yeah.
How's that going for you? Like dealing with the whole workshop schedule and then keeping up with your podcast and...
It's good, actually. I mean, it's forced me to be a little bit more focused because I have to look into the future and figure things out, but it's good.
Nice. Yeah, it's been awesome to see you like take off and have like all these opportunities open up for you. And
yeah, it's been awesome. So Eric, you recently did a really awesome presentation at Out of Chicago Live, all about social media, and I think that your take on this topic is going to be useful for a lot of people that are listening. And so that's why I was like, yeah, man, let's come back on and let's do another conversation. So I wanted to kick us off and first kind of set the stage a little bit relating to social media and how I think a lot of photographers are viewing social media right now. It's funny, before we hit record, I was telling you about right now a lot of photographers are using social media as like their screaming room for like political stuff. And I think people are just doing it for catharsis reasons. But it's, I don't know that it's causing people to, it's not doing any good, right? Like maybe it feels good in the moment, but it's not actually going to probably change the way things are handled in Washington or whatever your issue is. However, recently, you and another group of photographers embarked on doing a fundraiser for the National Park Service. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that. What inspired you guys to put together the box set of prints? What is it about? And how did the project come together so quickly?
Yeah, man. So, that was just a few weeks ago that all those layoffs happened in the National Park Service and like the Forest Service and within the Department of the Interior. There's like close to 5,000 employees. And now they're talking about laying off even more, I think. So it might not be the end of that, unfortunately. But initially, like the day I heard about that, I just wanted to do something. So I just posted on Instagram, like, all profits from prints right now will be donated to assist employees that have been recently laid off. But that was just kind of like something just to do something, but I knew I wanted to do something like more substantial that would have a greater impact than just that, because like, let's be honest, like I don't sell that many prints in a year. So it's kind of just like saying something just to say something, but I knew like nothing would really come out of it. So the next few days I was trying to think of something better I could do that would actually make a difference and be cool and everything and get people excited to support it. So I don't know where it came from. I just kind of had this idea in my head that I wanted to do something with prints and wanted to put some kind of thing together that people would like. And so I thought, what if it's like a print collection, and what if it's not just my prints, but like 10 different photographers, because that'd be pretty cool. And it's like a smoking deal, so people can't resist it. So luckily, I have a pretty tightly knit community of photographer friends, and I reached out to 10 of them, and 9 of them were willing to contribute an image. So then I asked another person, and then that made 10 of us. Well, yeah, sorry, 8 and then 9. So I put that together pretty quickly. It was kind of hard to reach everybody. Some people were out traveling, doing workshops and stuff. And so it took a little longer than I wanted to. But I knew if I was patient and spent some time on this and actually tried to make something that's like high quality, it'd be more successful. So it'd be worth it. So then, yeah, got together with those guys, picked out some images from them, put this thing together, launched it on the internet. And honestly, a few days before doing this, I was like, man, should I even do this? Like, is this a dumb idea? Like, is this just gonna like flop, Started kind of talking myself out of it, and I almost like didn't go through with it, but I was like, it's better to try something and fail and know it didn't work than like not do it and always wonder. That's like always been my philosophy. Like, whenever I have an idea that kind of sticks for a while, I'm like, I just got to pursue it and see what happens.
Yep.
Luckily, like some of those ideas have done really well and other ones haven't, but like it doesn't matter. There's no consequence. People don't remember stuff anyway, so like you're not going to ruin your career or anything like that. But
right.
yeah, I launched it just like 5 days ago, and immediately like sales started coming in. I was like, okay, cool. And then like William Neal shared it, and then like Sarah shared it a couple days later. And yeah, I guess I'll just mention everybody involved. So it's me, William Neal, Sarah Marino, Jennifer Renwick, Joe Roshbeck, Adrian Klein, Charlotte Gibb, TJ Thorne, Alex Noriega, and I hope I just listed all of us. I wasn't counting.
Michael Fry too, right?
Michael Fry, yeah. Thanks. How could I leave him out? He's a legend. So yeah, and it just started picking up, getting momentum. Other people started sharing it. I reached out to the Wilderness Society, Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance, Grand Staircase Escalante Partners, because I've worked with them in the past on environmental projects. They were all super excited about it. They're all sharing it now. Outdoor Photography Magazine in the UK, they're not even in the US. They reached out to me because they wanted to share it with their following. So it's been like getting all this momentum. People are sharing it, and we've raised, I'm still calculating printing costs because I have to subtract that, but we've raised over $40,000 now, which is pretty insane, like way better than I thought it would do. And now it's kind of like becoming a logistical nightmare, to be honest, because we're getting close to 200 orders, and it's 10 prints per order. So that's already 2,000 prints to like sort out and organize and package and ship out and stuff.
Yep.
But luckily, another cool thing was like I posted on Instagram, because I was kind of reaching out to different labs trying to figure out how I could maybe reduce printing costs, maybe if they would be willing to give us a discount because of the cause that we're trying to support, and was kind of getting a few nibbles here and there, and emails going back and forth with different ones that I like. But I just threw up something on social media on Instagram to see if anybody knew of a print lab, or there was some way they could help us get a discount so that we could have more profit to donate to the people that need this money right now. And within like 2 hours, Michael Strickland, who I'm friends with, and just it didn't really occur to me because he has his own print lab and everything. For some reason, I didn't think of him. He was like, hey man, I'd be totally down to help. And we had a phone call yesterday, and he's like willing to volunteer his time and everything to reduce the cost and do it all in house. And hopefully he can do the fulfillment, so I won't have to. But yeah,
that's awesome.
It's just awesome to kind of see the community come together, everybody being super supportive, and just feeling like we actually are kind of making somewhat of a difference here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the project's a super great example of how social media can be used for good, right? Like rallying the community to take action and make a significant impact on an issue that lots of people care about. And you mentioned already that you leveraged social media to like reach out to different people. You leveraged it to get people interested in the offer. What are some of the lessons that other photographers can take from this project in terms of using their platforms for meaningful causes?
I think if you just like really care about something, it comes through, and people are going to be willing to jump on and support. Because like if you're just not genuine about it, or it seems like you have ulterior motives, people are going to be like more skeptical and stuff. I think just like concentrating on causes that you really care about and that you have some kind of a personal connection with, so that you can offer a unique perspective on it. And I don't know. I just having some kind of direction with what you're putting out there, and some kind of, I think a lot of times people are just posting stuff they don't really know why. So
yeah, we'll definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, it's a really good example of the positive things that can come if you actually put your heart and intent towards something. And the important takeaway for me is like how powerful it is to collaborate, right? Like if you were to try to do that on your own, like the impact, I'm sure you could have sold some prints like you said, but when you have that collective impact, and then you can reach so many more audiences that way, it's obviously going to help with the goal you have in mind.
Yeah. And like, so really like reaching out to these 9 other photographers that we could each contribute one print and have a box set of 10 unique prints from 10 unique photographers, like that was mainly for the quality of the product. So I didn't want to just like slap something together to be like, hey, donate some money and here's this, like I wanted to make something that people would want to buy regardless of the cause. And then like, because we are donating 100% of the profits, maybe they'd be even more willing to buy it. And there's like a sense of urgency because we're trying to help people now, because they're laid off. A lot of them don't have housing and stuff because they were living in housing in the national parks and stuff. As kind of a natural positive side effect of that, it's like, yeah, now there's 10 different audiences we're automatically reaching if we each share that. So that's like kind of strategic. And then from there, it just spreads out, word of mouth and stuff. And it just naturally it's just like organic marketing and outreach.
Yeah, totally. So let's talk more specifically about social media under a broader umbrella. I think that there's a lot of people right now that are very frustrated with social media. Facebook obviously is like a total disaster these days. I feel like most people are just kind of disillusioned with social media in a general sense, but still there's a lot of people that like pour endless amounts of energy and effort into it, interestingly. So from that perspective, how can photographers maintain a meaningful connection to nature while still using social media as a business tool?
Yeah, I think that's a super important place to start. And I'm glad we talked about the Sacred Lands print collection, because I don't want people to get the vibe that we're like dissing social media and writing it off entirely.
Right. There are value.
Yeah, there are great ways you can leverage it for doing stuff, and it is worth building an audience and stuff. I just think you need to have the right reasons and be more intentional with how you use it and everything. And so back to your question, for me, like my time in nature is sacred. That's the best part about being a full-time nature photographer. I get to spend most of my life out in the wilderness and just being outside, not even like the photography aspect of it. That's just kind of something that happens while I'm out there. So I'm really careful to not ever compromise that or dilute those experiences. And obviously like too much technology or just using your phone constantly can do that. It can really disconnect you from your surroundings and distract you. So, nature photography is just like a special love that I would never want to taint. So I'm very, very careful with like preserving the integrity of that. So I think like bottom line, it comes down to using your photography to express your love for nature rather than using nature to express your love for photography. And so when you're going out into nature, from my experience, you're going to have the most meaningful connections when you're there because you want to be there. You go to a specific place because that's the place you want to be in more than anywhere else. You're not thinking about what you can extract from it, what you can gain from it. It's just doing it for the sake of the experience. You're not thinking of any kind of desired outcome. And so social media can be a slippery slope where you start going to certain places because they're popular. You think people want you to go there. You feel like an obligation, like, oh, Matt Payne was just in Iceland or the Faroe Islands or Antarctica or, wherever the hell you've been lately. So I need to go there too to, like, I don't know, compete, or it's just kind of like a checklist, like to validate yourself, like, I don't know, keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. Yeah, it's just really important to, like, never be seeking something else other than, like, just having that connection with nature be your main priority. And so I think also, like, while you're out taking pictures, only photograph things that you genuinely connect with, moments and scenes and subjects that you're genuinely interested in, not because you think other people might find them interesting. That comes after the fact, and that's something that I never even consider or worry about. That's just something that I find out once I publish it online somewhere and I see how people receive it. But that doesn't come into play at all when I'm creating that photograph. It's not something I consider whatsoever. So, photograph first, depending on what you connect with, and then think about social media afterwards. I think something that a lot of us mention that some people might still find frustrating is, like, because I know you've had this experience as well, and your photography has improved tremendously. Like, you're pretty bad when I first met. No, I'm just kidding.
No, it's true.
No, but you've gotten way better, and we've talked about this because we've become good friends, fortunately. Just having zero expectations when you go out, just being open-minded and seeing what naturally presents itself, like, makes such a difference.
Yeah, I'm not out there to, like, get something awesome for social media or to sell a print or, like, something that, like, there's no motivation. It's not driven by any of that stuff. It's just all driven by the experience in the moment, and like you said, like, being out there and just, like, experiencing nature and letting it speak to me, and then having a little bit of a conversation with it, to use the title of your first book, Conversations with Nature. Like, I think that's a really good analogy. Like, that's what you do with a camera. If, like, ideally is you're having a conversation. It's not about, ooh, I wonder if I take this photo, like, and I do this with it on my Instagram reels, like, I'm going to get this following. And it's unfortunate that I think there is an entire generation of people that have pursued photography through the intent of social media. Like, they're not doing it for the love of being outside or for the love of actually just making interesting photographs. They're doing it solely for the purpose of growing a following and making money. And so that is fascinating to me, that there's an entire group of people out there that probably listening to us, they're like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And somewhat ironically, going out with no expectations, photographing what you happen to connect with, responding to those things that speak to you when you're outside, it improves the photography tremendously. Like,
big time.
That's been my experience. That's been your experience. But apart from improving your photography by having that approach, how do you feel it's also, like, benefited you?
Yeah, I mean, it forces you to evaluate your motivations. It forces you to kind of lean more heavily into the things that you're more interested in, which, like, for me, a lot of times it's kind of some, like, natural processes that are involved in the creation of whatever the thing is I'm photographing. So it makes me more curious about the natural world, which then forces me to, like, be more introspective and thoughtful about the subject matter, which then, I mean, it's like this loop, right? Like, it makes the photos better, and then your body of work improves, and it also allows you to differentiate yourself a little bit from other people. Like, you're not just out there creating, like, replications of what everyone else has already done. Like, you're doing your own thing because it's what you were interested in. And to your point, like, your audience, whatever your audience means, like, they're going to appreciate that more. They're going to, the right people are going to start engaging with your photography on social media or wherever, because they're going to see that it's like, oh, this guy really loves photographing leaves and biofilm or whatever, right? Like, if whatever your jam is, like, it's just going to make that connection stronger and stronger.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you've been into backpacking and nature activities your whole life, and then you got into photography later, kind of like myself. But how do you feel your relationship with nature, even though you've been doing that your whole life, started to change once you had that approach to photography?
Yeah, I mean, For me, I've just become much more in tune with my surroundings and I see the world a lot more differently. Probably prior to 2015, like if I did a hike, I mean, I was enjoying the sights and the sounds, but like I wasn't paying attention, right? Like
Hmm.
I probably walked by hundreds of thousands of really cool photographs in those early years, like because my goal was to get to a very specific spot to take a very specific photograph. And
Yeah.
so the way I see nature, the way that I appreciate nature, I mean, I feel like I'm much more of a naturalist now. Like I have much more curiosity about the things that I run into and like, how the heck did that thing form? Or like, how did this get here or whatever? So to me, it's just like strengthened my relationship and my enjoyment of being there.
Yeah, and curiosity is actually a really important part of that, like part of creativity. So, like when you're curious about something, it actually raises your dopamine levels, and if
Yeah.
you have higher levels of dopamine, it fuels divergent thinking, which is like where you get creative ideas and stuff. So that's kind of something that can't happen. Like you can't just force your brain to go into that mode if you're not curious about your surroundings and genuinely interested in them. So
Right. And if your entire purpose of being outside is to create a photograph that's going to do well on social media or do well in your gallery or whatever your motivation is, like that curiosity is never going to, I'm not going to say never, but my guess is that for a lot of people, like it just doesn't happen.
yeah. Right. And so, yeah, to sum it all up, like just that deeper connection that I've been able to establish with nature is like the greatest gift I've received in life. And so that's like
Yeah.
mainly what I want people to get from all this. It's not just you're going to become a better photographer and take better photos. Like it's something that enriches your entire life because like just looking out the window, you see the world in a different way and admire more things. And
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, man. I recently recorded a podcast with our mutual friend Mark Handy, and
mhm,
I know you guys did a lot of
I'm excited to
backpack.
hear that. We had a phone
Yeah,
call like a couple weeks ago right before that.
yeah. It hasn't come out at the time of this recording, but it'll be out by the time this one's out. But it's interesting because I know you guys did a lot of backpacking and stuff together in Argentina, and as you know, he quit photography altogether. And I think really what it came down to is his entire motivation for being out there was driven by his business. Like, and I think that is a huge pitfall to fall into when you're a photographer. Like, I think it's
And he was
very
tremendously successful and it still had that
hardcore.
effect, like
Yeah,
it wasn't it's the money is like never enough to give you fulfillment.
right. And I think, I mean, you're a good example. I mean, I think I'm a decent example of people that like if you lead with your pure intention of just wanting to be out there and being in nature and like connecting with nature, taking photographs, like if that's how you lead with your motivation, the business stuff can follow, right? Like it doesn't need to be the other way around in order to find success. It might take longer, it might require a little bit more finessing, but I think if you have those expectations and motivations driven by business first, I think it's going to lead you down a path of burnout and discontent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit more about social media traps. So, what are some of the common traps of social media that you feel a lot of photographers should watch out for?
Yeah, so the main ones that I kind of alluded to earlier were like trying to follow trends and imitate others in hopes to gain more followers, get more attention, so trying to keep up with everybody else. So going to certain locations because they're popular right now, like hot spots, places you feel like you need to photograph. Going there because other people expect you to, not because you want to or because you genuinely connect with them. Or trying to photograph in a certain style because it's popular, changing the way your images look based on the other kinds of images you see that are having quote unquote success on social media, which honestly, like we all know by now, like those numbers, likes, comments, whatever, they don't equate to anything like financially or, it's not like all of a sudden you have a post that does super well and like the orders are coming in your
Right.
email or anything. Like I've
Yeah.
never had that experience, even when stuff is blown up like insane. And then like we know of tons of influencers that have millions of followers and they're not making any money from it. So it really isn't like the best thing to pursue. And yeah, so like following other trends like subject matter, photographing, I don't know, trees or mountains or this or that. just because you're seeing a lot of it and it's getting a lot of attention and stuff. So it's a very easy trap to like deviate from your natural interests and photograph other things based on what you see is having success on social media. I think everybody's aware of that one though, so that might not be as surprising, but I think it is a good one to point out because anybody can fall into that. Like I've felt that pressure before, like, oh, everybody's photographed this place, I haven't been yet, I need to go and have those photos in my portfolio. I think early on, a lot of us feel that when we haven't really done anything, and it's like, what should we do? You kind of look to what other people are doing and, you know, kind of follow in their footsteps.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned like editing styles too, because, you know, like 2010 to 2018 or whatever, like everyone was emulating certain editing styles, like putting in glow balls and like, you know, like adding in Orton everywhere and just like, and if you follow other people's like trends or whatever, I don't know, for me it's like it's not necessarily intrinsically rewarding. It's you're doing it because you think you're comparing yourself to someone else who has perceived success in the space. And then not only that, but like you're not developing yourself. You're not developing your own style, your own way of seeing the world, your own way of editing. And from an outside perspective, like if all of your stuff looks the same as someone else's stuff, I don't know. For me, that doesn't seem like it would be that personally fulfilling. But also, I also believe that from any astute outside observer, they're just going to be like, yeah, they're just copying so-and-so. Like they're not doing anything special or unique.
Yeah, how are you going to stand out objectively if you're trying to look the same as somebody else? And yeah, like you're talking about that time period. It was like, so like Mark Adamus, Ted Gore, and Ryan Dyer, all great photographers, amazing images, really great processing. And I admire all of them because they kind of created their own style that's very distinguished and you can spot it from a mile away. But at that time, like everybody, even myself when I started out, like was trying to emulate that style and have their photos look like theirs. And I don't blame them because it looked amazing. But what I realized is like once I started becoming more connected with nature and finding subjects and things that I really liked to photograph, like that editing style was no longer complementing my work and it just wasn't blending well with the subject matter, lighting, scenery that I was naturally into. And so I deviated from that and started editing my images according to what would benefit them the most, like what would be most complementary to the actual photograph instead of, you know, trying to place this template on top of it that just really didn't fit at all.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, it takes a long time to get to that place where you feel comfortable and confident to be able to do that with your own stuff. And I think it's just a cautionary tale. Like, I don't think you're doing yourself any favors by trying to make your photos look exactly like someone else's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that can be like a difficult thing to learn as a teacher as well, because I teach a lot of people like one-on-one post-processing. And so when they bring me an image to help them edit, I don't just go through my workflow and edit it according to how I would process most of my images. Because I don't even process all of my images the same way or anything like that. It all depends on the lighting and subject matter and stuff. But, you know, I always try to respect their style and I always like help them edit their image according to the lighting they've captured and the subject and scenery and what would complement that image the most, even if it's things that I never do in my own scene. It's just because it calls for it. So
yeah. Hey everyone, just a quick break from the episode for something super exciting. I'm giving away a tripod. It's the FLM CP26 S4 paired with the 36GX ball head and the QLB 52 lever. It so happens to be FLM's most popular lightweight travel tripod, and for good reason. I recently picked up one to test it out myself, and I've been seriously impressed. It weighs in at just under 48 ounces, a full 10 ounces lighter than my previous go-to for backpacking and travel. And even with that reduced weight, it's solid, sturdy, and very dependable. It uses the same winning 3-section design as the much bigger CP30L4, but in a much smaller 21-inch package, making it ideal for travel or long days in the backcountry. I like this tripod so much that I'm keeping mine, and I'm giving one away to a podcast listener. If you want a chance to win it, all you have to do is subscribe to my newsletter. There's a link in the show notes. I will be selecting a winner and announcing it in an upcoming episode, so get your name in soon. All right, let's get back to the show. It's funny how social media drives a lot of behavior too. There's a local photographer here to Colorado, not local to me, but she's like 3 hours away from me. And like, I think she's one of those people that started out as kind of like a outdoor influencer type, like, you know, here's a picture of me and my family and arches, or, you know, like that kind of an influencer vibe. And but she's like super outspoken on social media, has like a massive following. And now her Instagram is like nothing but reels, like constantly posting reels, the same reels, repeating reels. And like on Threads, all she does is talk about...
She's catering to the platform, right? Like,
right.
That's what does the best on Instagram nowadays. So
right. And it's like, what, like if you want to be known for the person who creates reels that go viral, I guess that's cool. But it's funny because I bumped last fall, I did like 4 or 5 days where I was just by myself in kind of like obscure spots. And I every single time I'd run into another kind of new photographer that was kind of doing their own thing, which was cool. And then we would start to talk, and then they would be like, oh, do you know this person? Do you know that person? And they're listing off all these names of like really well-known Instagram famous people from Colorado. And I'm like, yeah, I know of that person. Yeah, I know of that person. And like, it's all driven by like, yeah, they are known on social media because they've figured out these algorithms, and they figured out, oh, if I post 10 reels today, I'm going to get a huge following. And so I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people fall into these social media traps as well, because it does, for a small number of people that have kind of cracked the code and follow these trends and all that, like it does get them notoriety and name recognition. But I'm not sure that for me is what this pursuit of photography is about.
Yeah, primarily at least. You know,
right.
It's okay if those things happen, but it can't be your primary motivation. Otherwise, It's just going to be very vacant.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, maybe I'm jaded, but like people bring these names up when I meet them, like, oh, do you know this person? I'm like, yeah, that person who used to post photos and now all they do is post reels. Yeah, I know that person.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next two kind of traps that I would say are probably the most dangerous, because they're the ones that we would most likely fall into, is first of all, repeating your own successes. So let's say you take a photo, maybe it's like a new thing you haven't tried before, you share it, and it blows up, tons of people like it, gets tons of engagement. And so now you feel like, oh, okay, I should go and make more photos similar to that because it did well. So like the problem with that is eventually you're going to become redundant because you're going to be repeating your own behavior. And I mean, people are going to get tired of that, but most of all, you're going to get tired of that. You're going to get burnt out from photographing the same thing over and over again. And also now it's going to be impacting your connection with nature, because while you're out in nature trying to have those experiences, you're tunnel visioned, looking for a certain kind of thing again, ignoring all these other possibilities. You're not open. You're not an open receptacle. You're not going to be receiving what nature's trying to say to you. You're not going to be listening intently. So, you know, that's going to dilute your experiences outside and also burn you out and just, you know, decrease the depth that you can potentially have. And then you're going to stop evolving because, you know, you're not trying new things anymore. You're just repeating that behavior. And the other side of that is equally dangerous, is avoiding failures. So let's say you try something new, you post it, it gets zero engagement. And so now that deters you from exploring that idea or that style or photographing that certain kind of place more, because you didn't get that reward that you were hoping for. And so now it's just like you're cutting off that potential, like, you know, like new trajectory of growth in your photography. And so that's also going to keep you from evolving, because you're going to be deterred from experimenting and you're going to lose the freedom to just create whatever you want to.
Yeah, those are really, really good points. And I think I've fallen into both of those traps in the past in myself. Fortunately, I was pretty quick to recognize it, and my immediate like knee-jerk reaction when that stuff happens to me is disconnect from even thinking about or caring about social media at all. Like, and for me, it's become a healthy practice of like, social media is just a thing, and I'm gonna put stuff in there, and I don't really care what happens with it. If 5 people see it and 1 person likes it, cool. If 3,000 people like it. That's also cool. I think
The
where
thing
people,
is
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, the metrics of social media are so unreliable though, and I hope we can touch
Yes.
on why that is in a little bit. But yeah, it's just like the reason something is quote unquote successful or not in terms of engagement on social media has 99% to do with things that are completely out of your control and maybe only 1% of the actual quality of the photograph. Like there are so many
Absolutely.
factors that come into play that have nothing to do with what you actually posted.
Right. I mean, take Facebook, for example, right? Like at the time of this recording, I actually did this. It's kind of ironic, Eric, because I've been talking about how little I care about social media, but like I love data and I love looking at stuff. So the other day I like went into my Facebook business page analytics just for fun because I'd noticed like this steep drop off. It was just consistent. Like at one point in time, I was consistently getting X number of people that were, just commenting, liking, whatever. And then all of a sudden it's like a switch got thrown and like I'd get like one or two likes of like 10,000 followers, right? So it's like, okay, something's weird. And is this a pattern? So I like plugged all this data into a spreadsheet and sure enough, like it showed like it's just this consistent thing. And all it is Facebook tweaked their algorithms for Facebook business pages. They basically just said, and like, unless you're paying for reach or ads, we're not going to distribute your post to anyone, even if they follow you. So to your point, like there's zero reliability in like any of this stuff because we have no control over it whatsoever.
Yeah, and they're trying to hit that sweet spot where you do get enough out of creating content for their platform while not getting enough so that you feel inclined to pay to
Exactly.
get better engagement. So like they're always tweaking the algorithm to like be in that spot where it's like you're not getting zero engagement because that would just kind of make you quit entirely. But it is just enough, they give you these little morsels of dopamine and like
Right.
little rewards every now and then to keep you creating content because ultimately like we all work for these platforms. We are the product, right? That like
Right.
Facebook and Instagram don't create any of the content that we consume on their platforms. We all do that for them. And so they need to like have some little reward system, but not have it be too good where we don't feel like giving a little bit of extra money to have better performance. So it's
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of nefarious, but
Oh, it's very nefarious. I think most people would agree with that.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. No, those were really good points, Eric. And I think it's something that people should put a lot more thought and intention into in terms of not allowing social media to force you into these kind of creativity traps.
Yeah. And so, like we were just talking about avoiding failures. And I was saying, a lot of it has to do with things that are completely out of control that have nothing to do with the actual quality of the image. So like certain factors that could play into why an image doesn't receive really good engagement are maybe the time of day you happen to post it, just nobody was
Right.
online. And so nobody even saw it anyways. So like it's unfair to judge the quality of your image when there really wasn't like any observers of it to begin with. And that can change all the time, right? Like it just depends on what's going on in the world, what people are paying attention to. Maybe there was a change in the algorithm, like they tightened it so you get less engagement. Maybe there's world events going on. So like a lot of people on Instagram right now are going on there or on any social media platform to get news, which I don't recommend. I don't want to get into that too much. There's a lot of disingenuous like clickbait headline stuff coming from both sides right now.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I
so
avoid
like
it
a lot of
all.
people, yeah, that's honestly, yeah. So like a lot of people are going on to social media looking for those things. They're not looking for nature photography or anything like that. And so they're just not going to connect with your work. They're going to scroll right past it because they're searching for other stuff right now. That's completely out of your control. Really, it comes down to like luck more than quality. So it's really super misleading to try and draw any kinds of conclusions based on the engagement or lack of engagement a certain image that you posted receives, because it's just always changing and it's really impossible to actually know why it did well or didn't do well. So you're just going to be like following things that aren't true to begin with. And yeah, it's going to drive you crazy.
I totally agree, especially when it comes to landscape nature photography. I mean, I think if you're quote unquote a content creator and you tap into something that's unique or different, and again, those are the people that do well. Usually it's because they have a unique perspective and they have an interesting take on something. And so like, and then that's where the replication begins. And so it's I think chasing all of that stuff is rather pointless unless you sit down and actually have a very well thought out strategy and you have something very unique to offer. Otherwise, to your point, it's not worth thinking too much about.
Yeah, if you want to get feedback and figure out how you can improve your photography or something, reach out to somebody you trust and get direct feedback. Don't post stuff on social media and rely on it for like constructive criticism because it's not reliable at all.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, 100%.
Two other things real quick. Another trap is increasing volume to supply demand. So like posting more work because you feel pressured to like post every single day or twice a day or something because you're trying to like, make a splash in all the noise and just, your content's getting buried. So you're trying to like get on top of that by posting more and more and more. What that causes you to do is stretch for content rather than curating. So rather than only publish your best work and getting rid of anything that is, B-roll stuff or just not as impactful, now you're going to be trying to create more. And obviously the quality just goes down with quantity. And your work is going to be inauthentic. It's going to feel vacant because you're not photographing things that you really care about. You're just trying to like generate more content. And so you're going to be a lot more lenient with the quality and everything. The last one is catering to the platform. Like you said, like that one influencer started creating reels. Like that's catering to the platform of Instagram. Reels are performing well. So now you start making reels instead of things that actually complement your style or personality or the kind of work you make. Editing your images differently to make them louder, to try and stand out, make people stop scrolling, boosting saturation or contrast or whatever, or maybe this kind of subject matter. You're trying to photograph really epic stuff to make people stop scrolling. Maybe you're trying to make it like easily digestible because you realize people have such a short attention span now. You don't want something that's too contemplative or that requires too much effort to consume, which really the best kind of photography does, right? It causes introspection. You have to sit and look at it and it gets better and better and better the more time you spend with it. But that's just not very complementary to the way the social media platforms are now. Or like another big one that happened and is still going on is, phones happen to be a certain orientation. Like we hold them upright. And so it's a vertical screen as opposed to horizontal. So now a lot of photographers crop all their images, or in the field, they're thinking about photographing vertical images to try and take up more of the screen. And instead of thinking of the orientation or the kind of composition that would complement the scene, they're adjusting the scenery and the composition to complement the platform, which is so dumb because these platforms to begin with weren't created to display art. Like they're not created as the best way to consume and view art. So it's like super irrelevant, but they're changing their entire approach.
Yeah, that's always been a huge pet peeve of mine, that when people are clearly doing things not because it's coming from a creative perspective from within, it's coming from a how can I do this so that it fits within the aspect ratio of this platform that's then going to get me more views, likes, and comments. I just, to me, it becomes super obvious. And again, maybe I'm just jaded. I don't know. Like, I feel like I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of people who do that kind of stuff. Like, okay, maybe like they're getting enjoyment out of it, or they like the process of trying to work within those constraints. But at the same time, I'm just like, why would you want to have that constraint? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you already answered my next question, because my next question was going to be about how a lot of these social media platforms are severely limited in terms of sharing photography. I mean, aspect ratios being a good one, but also, come on, man, like there's certain photographs that just do not come across well on a phone, right? Like you need to look at it big. You need to be able to spend time with it and look at the details and like really reflect on it. And so I think, especially if you have a quieter style that's not loud and shouty and colorful, like social media is not going to probably do well for you.
Right. And that's okay. You shouldn't change your style to try and perform better on social media, like we've been saying. You should be comfortable with that. And I mean, I have quiet work, right? Like everybody pegs me as like the intimate scene guy, even though I do have like, I got grand landscape stuff. It just depends on, what presents itself and what's going to complement the scene the best. I don't have a preference for either, honestly. But
same.
Yeah, I mean, most social media platforms we use on our phones, phone screens are tiny. You can take them around, which is horrible. So people can be looking at your image out in direct sunlight in the middle of the day and hardly see anything, like no shadow detail. So really poor lighting environments, very distracting settings. People can be on their phones while they're driving or while they're working. A lot of people are on social media like while they're multitasking, unfortunately, which is very detrimental for our minds as well. So they're really not giving your images their full attention to begin with, and that's just the platforms don't encourage that either. They don't encourage you to sit down with a glass of wine and like slowly scroll through your feed and look at like 5 or 6 images over the course of an hour or so and really digest them and immerse yourself in them. Also, like we can't determine the viewer's mood while they're viewing our images on social media, right? They could be super upset because they just saw a post about something that just happened in the world, some kind of injustice, and then the next thing in their feed is your image and they're pissed off and angry, and right. It's like this serene, happy, quiet scene. It's just not conducive to their mood or anything like that, and so they're not going to connect with it, and that's just super normal. They're not going to be prepared to view your work all the time. And it's also like your work is getting clumped in with this feed of just jumbled, incohesive content. So later on, we'll talk about like ways that you can present your work in a much better way. Because if Instagram is like the only place you're posting stuff, or just social media in general, I always refer to Instagram because that's the only platform I use. Just to clarify, I'm not on any other social media accounts, and I'll talk about that more later. But, if this is like the only place you're displaying your work, you're doing yourself a huge disservice because you're not creating an environment where it can be appreciated way more, and you're just not creating any kind of a better experience that people can enjoy your work. So this endless feed now, some of us remember when you would open Instagram, go through the post, and you're like, okay, I'm done now because there's nothing else. You refresh and nothing else comes up. So you'd put it away and you'd check a few hours later. Now it's just endless. A lot of it is stuff you don't even follow. It's just like such a mess, and it's so mind-numbing and infuriating, and just it's not cohesive at all. And so it's really just designed to keep you doom scrolling and just rush through content rather than really absorb it. So
well, not only that, but like even if you're like I've done a pretty good job, I feel like, of like curating who I follow. Like I only follow people if I'm genuinely interested in their photography. Like there's no hard feelings.
I'm the same way.
Like if it's somebody I know, but like I'm not really that interested in their photography, I might not follow you. Yeah. And that's like, don't feel bad. Like it's just, that's how I like my feed to be. And now it's just like sponsored posts and suggested posts that relate nothing to like how I've chosen to curate my feed. And it's become, and I don't know, for me, like I spend way less time on it now because it's not the experience that I want. And so there's other platforms I think that are better for that. Like, and you talked about like, we'll talk about this more, but I think there's other photography focused platforms as well that can serve a little bit better in that regard. Like Glass is pretty cool. It's new. They're tweaking things. People's websites obviously is a really good one. Like just spend time on your favorite photographer's websites and sit down with a nice beer and like really enjoy it. And I think one of the things I really like about your YouTube thing that you've done, the Brews and Views, is like you ask everyone who's involved that day to pick out like 3 photographs that they really like. And then the whole group spends like 20 minutes with each photo and like talk about what they like about it, why it's engaging, what works about it. And I think like that's the way photography is meant to be like discussed and consumed. It's not this endless scroll of mindlessness.
Yeah, and doing that show, you'd be surprised. Like something I've noticed is, when we are going and looking for images, a lot of times we'll find images on Instagram. That's like where we find new stuff the most often. But then I'll try to like go onto their website to download a higher res version of the photo.
A website?
And they don't have a website. I'm like, this is insane. Like, what are you doing? Like, really? Social media is like your end game? Because that's where I focus all of my energy to making my website the best I possibly can. That's where I publish all of my work first, and then I share it on social media. And the whole point of that is to try and lead people from social media platforms to my website to see the gallery that I've curated, I've sequenced in an intentional way from the first image to the last one to create this visual journey for people to have this deeper experience and connect with the subject matter in the same way that I have, hopefully. And like, if you're not doing that, then you're just really not offering anybody like a better experience than social media, which I think we've established is not at all the best way to consume art. And so you're really like selling yourself short.
And I agree with all that. And I get it for like someone who might be new. Maybe they don't feel like they have the expertise or the time or the money to be able to invest in developing a website. And I mean, I hear questions from people all the time like, hey man, I'm finally at the point where I feel like I'm ready to create a website. So like if that's where you're at in the journey, that's great. But like to your point, there's a lot of people out there who have a pretty substantial following or like actually a really awesome body of work, and there's no website.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's going on?
I know.
Yeah,
It's
so
wild.
maybe this should be the motivation for people. Like if you're one of those people who you've got some really great photographs, let's get that website built.
Or if you have a website but you neglect it, because like a lot of times they will have a website and I can't find the
I know.
image on their website. They haven't posted anything in the last 2 years on their website. I'm like, okay, so you've been like constantly posting on social media every week, a couple times a week even, but completely neglecting your website. Like, I don't
Yeah, and
understand that.
I'm with you. I do exactly the same way you do for the
Yeah,
most
of course
part.
you do.
Like every once in a while I'll come home and I have an image that maybe doesn't fit into a gallery that I have on my website. So I'll share it on social media because it's immediate and it's like recent. But 95% of the time, like I'm creating the website stuff first and then I'll care about social media later. Like it's just like an
Right.
afterthought mostly actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you said about how phones, especially like if you're outside and like you can't see the image. I had a photograph that I was actually really happy with that I captured back in December out in California. And I mean, I don't think the subject matter is super unique. It's like this cottonwood tree with Mount Whitney and Lone Pine Peak behind it. Really amazing light that evening. And it was actually really challenging to process because the sky was so bright and the like all the glow was on the foreground, but it was really subtle. And so like everything but the sky is pretty dark, but like not totally crushed, right? And on the phone, like you're like, oh, it's a bright sky. But like if
Right.
you look at it on a proper screen, like you can see all the details in there. You can see the subtle glow that's cast on the tree and the leaves in the tree. And so like that's the kind of image that like you need to look at that kind of stuff in the proper viewing environment, not on a phone outside.
And the other side of that is to not let yourself be tempted to then go and reprocess the photo so that it will look good on a phone screen
Right.
out in the sunlight, and try to compensate for that.
Yeah, I had a guy comment on it. He was like, it's way too dark. And I was like, my histogram looks good, man. You just have you need to turn your brightness up on your screen or something because it's not.
Yeah. You can't control the viewing environment. And that's
the other
why
thing.
I love like making books. And so that's kind of a tangent. But the other reason I wanted to do the Sacred Lands print collection, just to circle back to that real quick, is I wanted to advocate for printing because I think that printed photography is still the best possible way you can consume it, especially if it's large. Or if it's a book, it's just tangible. Studies have shown that when you can actually touch the paper, you can smell it. It engages more of your senses rather than just your sight when you're on social media. You have a more fulfilling experience. Your retention is a lot better. It's going to stick with you. You're going to react to it more emotionally. And so I just don't want those mediums to go extinct. And I'm pretty sure they won't. But it's just like I saw that as an opportunity to kind of impress people again with the quality of printing and that experience and get people excited about that all over again. So yeah, that was another reason I wanted to do that, just to kind of make an argument for the importance of printing work.
And I think that's what's cool about like a box set like your guys are doing because it's more accessible, right? Like it's not a $2,000 40 by 60 print on the wall. It's it's a
Right.
collection of images that can fit in a box on your coffee table or whatever. I don't remember what you guys are selling them for, but I'm guessing like it's probably really good value in terms of the
Yeah,
number of
199,
prints.
so 19.99 a print.
Yeah, so that's amazing, right? And so, and you don't have to print like these massive, huge prints in order to like get your work out there. It can be, I think box sets are actually a really great way to do it. I know Ben Horn does a lot of those. He does like, I think he does one once a year.
Yeah.
And I would love to get to that point someday, is like just having like a collection of my images once a year. Like that's a really cool business model too.
Yeah, and anybody that is interested in that, I'd recommend they reach out to Michael Strickland because he's done those for a lot of people. You may not know that, but
Yeah, I didn't know that.
since
Yeah.
I've, mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's like totally his wheelhouse, and he can help you find like, because there's lots of different options for packaging and stuff, like depending on how many images you have in there, and he knows like all the different options and can help you put it together
Yeah.
in the best way possible.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this or not. I'm guessing you do since you won. But the very first year of Natural Landscape Photography Awards, we wanted to make it like super special that first year. And for everyone who won one of the awards, we actually created a little box set. And I wish we continued to do that, but Alex was responsible for making them, and he hasn't been able to do it. But it's actually really cool, right? I think it was pretty
Yeah.
nice.
I didn't know that you stopped doing this, but yeah, I have mine on my bookshelf, and
Yeah,
it's cool.
I want
Yeah.
I want to get back to doing it, but it's it is expensive and it's
Yeah.
very time consuming. Like Alex handmade all of those boxes.
that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, that's like a really cool way to present photographs. Like it's in a box. It's really nice. I don't know. I think it looks really good.
Yeah, no, this is super nice. I love the gold foil stamp on the front and everything, and yeah. I thought this was super cool.
Yeah. But to your point, I think that's a fantastic way to do it, and it's a little bit more accessible for people who might not have wall space or like millions of dollars or whatever. Maybe that's a good segue to talk about a more positive thought process around social media. Like, what are the best ways, in your experience, to lead an audience from social media to those deeper experiences, such as websites and box sets and prints and whatnot?
First of all, you have to like have those things set up, and so like you have to know why you're using social media. So the reasons I publish stuff on social media are to kind of like create billboards to lead people to these experiences that are way better than looking at my work on social media. So I post images hoping to lead people to my website to read an article, more long form content, or go and watch a Brews and Views episode, or go on my website and look at the full gallery that I've curated and sequenced and everything. And so you have to like have those things established first to know where you want to lead people. Yeah, I think like the best way to do it is just being more intentional, like with your captions and things, having those things set up so you have a place to lead them to begin with.
I don't know about you, but I found like stories can be like a really great way to get people to go check out those other experiences. I find a lot of success using stories, and I think that's a great way to...
Surprisingly, sometimes that's a better way to like advertise than actual posts. Like a lot of times, like for the Sacred Lands thing, I just shared it on my story once a day for the first 5 days and noticed like tons of sales from that. And then I made an actual post to kind of give people an update and have like a longer caption, because you can't put too much text in a story because it gets too hard to read. And
Right.
it didn't like get as much engagement as the stories have. So
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that is actually a good thing that Instagram offers.
Well, not only that, but I mean, not to like give people a tip for like gaming social media, but like if you can find ways to get people to engage in your stories and send you messages, like it sends Instagram a signal to their algorithm to show them more of your posts. Like that's just a fact. So like if you consistently create a story here and there, I mean, you don't have to do it like 100 times a day or whatever, but like, I don't know, like pose up a question or like just ask fun things, like, and people engage with it, they're going to see your posts when you actually do post.
Yeah. I think the main thing is to just like know why you're using social media and how you want to leverage it. Otherwise, you're just going to be kind of like aimlessly posting stuff,
Right.
and you're not going to get anything out of it because you don't know what you want to get out of it in the first place. And then also having the right expectations, because, there's just certain things that it's not going to deliver. So if you expect it to do those things, you're just going to be frustrated endlessly. So it's important to know its limitations and then work around those by creating other things that you can achieve those things with.
And I've always viewed Instagram through the lens of like it being a tool to develop and curate a community of people, or relationships with other humans. And one of the things I love that you do on Instagram, and I know a lot of other people do this as well, but it's pretty low effort. But like if you come across a photo of someone and you like the photo, like just share it in your stories and say like, wow, check out this really great photo I found. I don't know how many awesome, like super obscure photographers I've discovered through those kinds of stories, especially from like you and Alex Noriega and people like that. Like, wow, I didn't know that person existed, and now I got to really check out their stuff because it's really nice, you know? So I think that's a great way too. It's like to elevate other people in the process.
Sure. And I honestly don't do that to try and help people get more followers or try and get a favor in return or anything like that. Like I'm
it
very
just feels
picky
good, right?
with what and I'm very picky with what I reshare. Like I only reshare stuff if I really, 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 really like it. So like that just gives you like more credibility and stuff. And so then people are, because otherwise, you can just flood your story with reshares and it just feels like, okay, he's just sharing everybody's stuff to be nice or,
right.
like, so there is like a fine line, I think.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. So given that I think we both agree that social media, generally speaking, sucks, especially if you have the mindset of like thinking about it all the time. How can photographers grow their audience without relying on these algorithm-driven tactics like diving headfirst into doing hundreds of reels or, placating to the algorithm or placating to the aspect ratio? Like, what are some other ways to get people to engage with us? Like, we've talked about stories. What are some other things that you've tried that work?
So I get this question a lot, like, how did you grow your audience on Instagram? Because I was kind of an early adopter. I downloaded Instagram in 2012 when I moved back to the United States and got an iPhone for the first time, and quickly deleted it after like a few weeks because I was just bored. And back then it was just like posting photos of what you were eating or what you were doing, and like it wasn't, I didn't even like even once I became a photographer, I didn't even consider like posting actual photographs on it that I'd taken with a professional camera as opposed to my iPhone. Like it kind of just seemed like it wasn't allowed,
I know, that was the early days were so funny because you would take a picture with your phone, apply one of the filters, and then post it. And it was never like, because I remember I was actually hiking through the forest with Michael Bellino. I think it was like literally 2014, and we were both like, oh, you got this new Instagram thing? And like Bellino was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use it for my behind the scenes stuff. But we never once talked about like actually using it to post our photographs.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how that just happened, and it was like, oh wait, you can do that, and then it just like exploded from there. Because I think I got back on in 2014, started sharing my photos from my DSLR on there, and so a lot of people ask me that question, and I don't have like strategies or anything like that, because honestly it's constantly changing, and even if something works today, next week or in a month, like it's not going to work anymore. You gotta like constantly evolve if you really want to chase that. The first thing I would recommend though is so this goes back to the reason that I only have Instagram installed on my phone. And these days, besides my website, Instagram is the only place I post my photos. I don't even bother on Facebook anymore. And the reason is because I feel like Instagram is where I have the biggest following. It's where I can reach the most people. And so I just consolidate my effort to that one platform, because it can be extremely time consuming if every time you want to share a new photo, you post it to Instagram, then Facebook, then 500px, then Flickr, then Vero, then Glassdoor, whatever, like Blue Sky, all these new ones, Twitter. That's like 2 hours just to post a photo across all these platforms. Right. And the reason that like isn't very effective is because honestly, a lot of your audience is going to be overlapping on this platform. So you're not going to have a unique set of people following you on each platform. They're going to overlap, so it's going to be very redundant. And honestly, people are going to open Instagram, see your image. They're going to open Twitter, see your image again, open up something else and see and they're going to get tired of seeing you, and they're actually going to want to see less of you rather than wanting to see more, which I feel like is not a good thing. So it's best to just pick the platform that complements your work the most, that you enjoy using the most, that you maybe have the largest audience on, that you feel you get the best return on your investment of time and effort, and just concentrate all your time and energy on that so that you don't waste more time than you need to. And you can do it as best as you possibly can. You can keep up with comments, you can respond to messages. You're not just going to be overwhelmed and inundated with all this stuff that you got to do. Because again, like you're not getting paid to use these platforms. So you have to think about like how much are you willing to work for free? Because at the end of the day, like we're all creating content that these platforms thrive on. So we're all like working for these platforms and not getting a check from Instagram or any of these companies.
I agree with everything you're saying, obviously, but there's also ways to like do it and not have it consume your entire lifetime if you want to. Like, and I don't just post and like ghost. There's intention behind it, but it's not like I'm letting it rule my entire day or whatever, you know?
Consolidating your efforts to like a single platform so you can do the best you possibly can and not waste a lot of time. That way you can put more time and energy into actually creating art and your thoughts and everything. After that, honestly, just creating the best content you possibly can, trying to add value instead of just adding noise, and going the route of like just being impossible to ignore. So creating things that people naturally want to talk about and share with other people, which just comes down to creating great stuff. So like we said earlier, like not trying to follow trends or anything like that, just focusing on doing your own work the best you possibly can, and it's going to be way more likely to spread naturally, and that's a way more enjoyable process as well. And so like that's the only thing I can say that I've done this whole time is I've just tried to make the best photographs I possibly can. Luckily people have resonated with them and shared them with other people.
Yeah, and I think if you come at it from that perspective of being a part of a community and like being picky about who that community is, and going, you know, intentionally using the platform in that way, like respond to people's stories that are people that you like, and or the post resonates with you or whatever, and like using it that way, I think that reciprocation is going to come naturally at some point. Like your people are going to find you after you found them, kind of a thing. And so the reason I mention all that is because I feel like there's a lot of people who like they weren't early adopters to Instagram or other social media platforms, like in 2012. Like maybe if you just got out of college right now and you just opened an Instagram account for the first time and you're like, how do I grow my audience? And I think I was going to ask you your advice for that, because I hear people complaining about that now because organic growth is almost non-existent these days. But yeah, I think if you do what I just said and like find the people you admire, like go like listen to podcasts like this and go to people's websites and like start to find people. Like I know you have an inspiration page on your website. Like a lot of photographers have stuff like that out there where they're like, these are the photographers that inspire me. If you go out of your way to like really curate the people you follow, engage with those people, and like not just because you want to, but like actually because you really like the stuff they're posting, I think eventually that natural community is going to form. But I'd be curious your thoughts.
And yeah, at the end of the day, the alternative route just isn't worth it. Like, you're just going to ruin your passion for something special that you found.
Selling out for for the reels or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, here's a good example, right? Like you've got, you have Michael DiMaiola on Cruise and Views. I think when I first learned about him, he had like 200 followers on Instagram or something. And I was like, wow, he's got some really amazing work. But because he was consistently engaging with a lot of people and like getting involved and like, and it wasn't like this false intentionality. Like he was just being genuine. Like he's really interested in that kind of photography. Like over a couple of years, like he's become somebody who's known, right? So I think you have to play the long game and come at it from a community perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if you're contributing value to the community, people are gonna value you more. So like taking
Right.
that seriously and not just throwing stuff up there, trying to yeah, compete with all the noise and everything. What I was gonna say is if you're a full-time photographer where you're trying to make a living from photography, or if you're a hobby photographer where making a living is inconsequential for you, your intentions with social media and expectations and like what you hope to get out of it are going to be very different, right? Because like in one hand, you're trying to make a living, so you are trying to grow an audience and this and that, and like have customers and people that support you. On the other hand, like that, none of that really matters. So you're a bit more free to just play around and doesn't matter what comes out of it. But like having a big following or numbers on any social media platform don't necessarily equate to sales or financial gain or financial support or anything like that. So I was kind of an early adopter. I was on Instagram before the algorithms got like really tightened and posts were getting like crazy engagement and stuff, and like my following grew really 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 fast, and then it plateaued like what 4 years ago. Like I don't think my follower count has increased by even 100. I've been at what I'm at like
Yeah,
right
I'm
there
pretty much the
for
same as
years.
well. Like if that's, I think a lot of people that way.
Even though like every time I go on, I'll have notifications that I got new followers. It's like maybe bot accounts are being deleted, and so it just like it just levels out, But
Which I'm good
that
with
doesn't
that.
really it doesn't really matter, like because if you're trying to make a living, what you want to go after isn't like the size of your audience; it's the quality of your audience. So if you're
Exactly.
posting really great work that people can connect with, it's very unique. You're offering something novel and special that nobody else can do besides you because you're playing into your personal interests and your personality and your unique ideas and you're irreplaceable. You're going to develop an audience that is very dedicated to supporting you, that wants you to stick around, that wants to see more of you. And that is going to equate to financial success and having people share your work and growing in a more organic way. Because like even if you do like shortcuts, if you follow trends, you might experience like short-term success and maybe have your follower account skyrocket in the short run. But unless you grow like an organic audience that is actually genuinely interested in your work the way that you want to present it, it's just not going to last over time. And those people are going to drop off. They're going to lose interest. They're not going to care about supporting you anymore, or if you quit or continue photography or not.
Right.
So like you really don't need that big of an audience. It's more about people that just really care about your work, and that's going to happen by caring about your work yourself and giving them something to care about. Because like if you don't connect with it in the first place, or if you don't care deeply about it, it's really not very reasonable to expect anybody else to.
Yeah, I agree. And, like if you're someone who was originally a photographer, but you decided, okay, reels are where it's at, and I'm just going to do reels from now on. Really all you've done is like you're telling the world like, hey, if you like short form reels, I'm your guy to follow. Follow me. I'm going to give you lots of these cool reels. And then when you decide that reels isn't your thing, or like really it was never your thing, that
Yeah, you lose
genuineness
that
fades
freedom
away.
to follow new ideas and things.
And really
So
that you lose all authenticity because like the people who are following you now because you post all these reels and like they're not actually following you because of the other stuff that you want to be known for. They're following you because you post these reels. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
you've
like
set yourself up for that too, though.
exactly. So I think that's a
Yeah,
cautionary tale is like chasing trends just makes it to where people will follow you based on a trend that either that trend is no longer going to exist or that audience is not going to become interested in what you are doing when they come to find out that's not actually what you're into.
yeah. Things that grow fast don't last. Like long-term gratification is super important and worth it.
Yep.
I think it's good to be in the habit of pursuing those things.
All right. Well, I had one more question I wanted to ask you, Eric. Relating to the relationship between social media and landscape photography, how do you feel social media is changing the way people experience landscape photography? And what does the future look like for photographers who want to stand out? And
I think it's
maybe I'll
yeah,
plug you with a stat I heard recently that supposedly worldwide interest in landscape photography is going down, while interest in wildlife photography is going up. I don't know why. I have a feeling that it has something to do with the changing landscape of social media, but anyway, your thoughts?
I would suspect that the interest in wildlife photography would be increasing while the interest in landscape photography would be decreasing because wildlife photography is less attainable. Like it takes a lot of work and I really admire
To do it
those
well,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't, no, like I can't do that at all. And so there's a larger like barrier for entry.
It's more expensive.
Yeah, like honestly, like nature photography, you can go out in your backyard with a macro lens and create some amazing stuff of like
Yeah, you can
dandelions and
take an 18 to 55 kit lens and create decent work. Whereas, like, you want to create good wildlife images, like, you probably at least need a 100 to 400 or, it's just more expensive to start out with.
yeah, it's much more reliable on the moment as well. Being in the right place at the right time. Like there's just there are many more factors that go into creating a great wildlife image. However, so like it's harder to replicate, but you can generate AI wildlife images. So like
I was wondering if you thought AI had something to do with it as well.
I'm not sure. That's interesting that interest in landscape photography is decreasing. I think maybe people are becoming desensitized, especially now that there is so much crazy, like it started out with like crazy composite work and then, people just cranking the volume all the way. It's going to numb our senses and we're going to be doing a disservice to the entire community like that because we're like priming people for a certain kind of photography that maybe isn't the most...
I don't know if you saw my post. I did a Facebook post, but also I did some Instagram stories about this. There's this guy, his name is Carl Payne, and he used to do landscape photography. And now what he does is he goes on all of our websites, he downloads our photographs from all over the world, and then he runs them through like Midjourney or some other AI algorithm, pulls that file into Photoshop, tweaks it, makes some changes to it, does some light painting, changes some of the details, but not many, and then reposts them with his watermark. And the composition is identical. And then the way to tell it off is like, for example, the example I shared is like, there's a C stack in the back. And in reality, the C stack is just barren rock. But the AI like added like a couple little trees and stuff on the C stack. But everything else lined up perfectly. Like the wave pattern in the foreground was identical. Where the clouds were in the light was identical. And like some people were like, oh no, he just put his tripod there. And I'm like, come on, man. You can't replicate all of those things that precisely. And if you go on his Instagram, like you can easily correlate all of his posts with all of our work. And he's got like 100,000 followers on Instagram. But to your point, like if that's all it takes to be a good landscape photographer is to just generate stuff on AI, like I could see why a lot of people would be desensitized and disillusioned by it. If your intention is to like grow a following and, like going full circle, like if your intention is impure, then your experience is also not going to like give back the way you want it to. But anyway.
Yeah, so you gotta like be the thing you want to see in the world, whether that be a change or something you want to preserve. So that's why it's like even more important now than ever to, keep our artistic integrity and not be swayed by different things and promote the kind of work that we want to see 100 years from now and try and preserve like whatever part of photography it is that you resonate with and care about the most. So like if it is composite stuff or whatever, that's fine. Like, but you're going to be like self-sabotaging your success in the long run if you're doing things that aren't the things that you actually want to be doing, because you're going to be promoting something that isn't what you actually want to keep around, so you got to be super intentional with that, I feel like.
Yeah, and I know we've kind of gone a lot of different ways based on my original question, which was like, what does the future look like for people who want to stand out in photography? And I think the answer is pretty simple. Like, do your thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
If you're
The future's
super,
uncertain, so
yeah, just be you. Like,
the only thing you
don't
can know for sure is like what you want to do, hopefully.
exactly, yeah. Like, if you're super into photographing leaves on ice, do that. You know, like, but
Yeah.
if you're only doing that because you saw it won like an award in a competition, eh, I don't know. Maybe don't do that. You know, like do it because it's something you genuinely love.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so hard to predict how people are going to react to your images, how they're going to be received. So I just completely shut all of that out, ignore it entirely. When I post stuff on Instagram, I honestly could not care less how it performs or whatever. Um, I've already gotten what I needed to out of that experience. I feel completely fulfilled by it. And I don't let its success or lack of success change my opinion. I don't let it make me feel better about it or feel like it's an even better photo because people liked it, and I don't let it make me feel like it's a worse photo because people didn't like it. So
Yeah,
that's the only thing you can
it's
know for sure.
the question I always ask people, or I think a question that I would pose for listeners is if social media disappeared tomorrow and you didn't have a website and you didn't have an email list and you didn't have an audience whatsoever, how would that change the way you approach photography, right? And I think that's how you answer that question is really informative to your motivations and your values and also your connection to the craft of photography, right? And I've thought about that question over the years, and fortunately I'm at a place now where if that happened, I would still love to take photographs. I would do it probably very similarly to the way I do it now, and I would probably seek out more in-person connections with people to like, hey, check out, let's look at our, like, show me your stuff, like, let's sit around a campfire and like look at each other's prints or whatever, like in a box set or whatever. So to me, it's a really informative question that I think can challenge your entire belief system.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, whatever the answer is, like, what you would be doing regardless of social media is actually what you should be doing. Yeah, that is a great question. I'm just looking for a quote. So if people are like have enjoyed this conversation and they want to maybe learn more about this or hear more of my thoughts, I wrote an article a year or two ago about social media called "The Means, Not the End." That's on my website in the photography section for articles. And I feel like this is just something that I wanted to read from there that kind of sums up everything, and it's another important point. So I would recommend you ignore the success of your photos entirely and post whatever you feel like posting. And more importantly, continue to create whatever you feel like creating. Having confidence in your art does not imply that you expect everyone to love everything you share. True confidence is knowing full well that not everyone will like your work, but still sharing it anyways. Confidence isn't just being undeterred by criticism, it's also being unaffected by praise. If the audience is influencing your opinion of the images you create, negatively or positively, then I would suggest you work on deepening the relationship you have with your art.
We could have just had you read that and skip the entire presentation.
True. Hey, you still can. You can just cut that part out and then post it like that.
That's the podcast. There we go. All right, Eric. So I wasn't planning on asking you this, but I can't help it. I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the little book project you just put out with Kozu. What's that?
Yeah, so I have my main series of books. You mentioned the first one, Conversations with Nature. The second one came out over a year ago, Space, Stillness, Silence, which is still available for purchase. And that's the most meaningful body of work I've produced. And I love that book. And I would really encourage you to purchase it because, like, if you like my work, it's the best representation of my whole ethos and approach to photography in terms of photographs and the writing and everything. And it's also an important message that pertains to what we've spoken about today.
Yep, I was just going to say
preserving preserving space, stillness, and silence in the natural world. It's a message of conservation because there are plans to try and fill up deserts with windmills and solar panels and things because people don't appreciate open space as much as they should, and it's something that can disappear entirely one day as we overpopulate the planet. Same thing with silence, and noise pollution is a huge thing that's not only disrupting our experiences in nature as people, but the ecosystems, because they're disruptive to the animals that live there and everything, and they're having a very detrimental effect. And then, stillness as well. And so it's also about cultivating those things in your own life. And social media is very antithetical to those things, right? Like the mindless scrolling, the constant distraction, the escape from boredom. Those are all things that are very, very detrimental for us. And I've experienced that in my own life. So back to your question, that's a series that I'm working on. I'm working on the third book right now. Those are all fine art hardcover books. After I wrote the foreword for Hans Strahn's book, Aqua, that he published with Kozu, they reached out to me and they said, hey, we would love to do a book with you sometime. I wanted to keep that project as my own, that I'm self-publishing. So I asked them, like, hey, instead of doing, a fine art hardcover book like that, would you be interested in doing like a zine, and maybe we could do one a year? So it'd be like a smaller collection of images that is a more focused theme, instead of being as broad like my books are that have a lot more pages and everything. Luckily, they were into the idea, and so that was really fun to put together the first volume, which is called Moments of Quiet Wonder. And that series is going to be called Moments, and then each book will have a different theme. So this theme is, quiet wonder, intimate scenes, abstract scenes, lots of close-up stuff. There are like a lot of classic images in there for my portfolio that I wasn't able to fit into my other books. So it's nice to have this other way of being able to print my work and share it with people as a cohesive collection that they can hold in their hands, because I love making books. So I generate a lot of photographs naturally. I have like 700 edited images right now that I haven't released. And so it's just nice to have another outlet besides the internet to share those with people.
Yeah.
So it has like lots of new work as well that I saved just for this and will exclusively be printed in there. So that's just like a yearly zine that we're going to be doing, and it's available for purchase on their website, and there's more information about it on my website. So
cool. I'm glad you could share all that, because when I first saw it, my first thought was Eric was so trashed and destroyed by the last book process and all of the craziness that you had to go through with the delivery of the books and the damage to the books and the reprinting of the books, that you were like, I'm done with books. So I'm glad to hear that that's not the case.
Yeah, no, I can't give up on that. And it's still my favorite way to share my work. It's very complementary to the way that I approach photography, because, like, as you know, I love writing as well. So it's just a nice way to present both of them. This new zine, admittedly, like, it's mainly just images. There's just a foreword by Richard Martin, which is really cool because he's one of my favorite photographers. I think he's like the most artistic, creative person I know.
Yeah, I love Richard. Yeah.
And a brief introduction by myself. So it's more just like a monograph, just images to let them speak for themselves. But awesome. It is nice to have like that other project on the side. And it's been really cool working with Kozu. Great people.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't talked to him about it much yet, but I finished writing my book, and I've got the foreword from Guy Tall, and I've got everything done. I'm just designing it right now and getting quotes. So
this is a like coffee table portfolio style book?
Yeah, but essays.
Uh-huh. Are the essays like photography technique stuff or more like experiential?
It's super experiential. It's hard to describe because I don't think anything like it exists yet, but it's basically blending my knowledge and experience and interest in psychology and philosophy with my mountain experiences and doing the Colorado Trail and climbing the highest 100 mountains in Colorado. So weaving in stories of those experiences with psychological insights paired with photography that's relevant to those experiences.
That sounds awesome, man. And it sounds like you're not just throwing another book out there in the world, but it's something like way more personal that like nobody has really done yet. And I respect that for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll see if I can get it off the ground. The main barrier for me right now is cost. It's, with the tariffs and all that stuff, it's crazy right now.
Yeah, true. That's the nice thing about publishing something through Kozu. I don't have to worry about fulfillment, printing, any of that. They take care of all that. So it's nice to have a low stress side project like that in between my other books that are apparently monumental headaches. But
Like that's the other thing is like, do I really want to go through that?
I think I've just had bad luck. I hope it doesn't deter people from doing it because bookmaking, like that's why I do it as well. It's something I want to see continue on in the future.
I don't know if you've had bad luck. I feel like almost every single person that I've talked to who's published one or more books has run into something.
Dude, I got sued in making my first book for $25,000, and it took like a year to make. And my second book, I had to reprint 4 times. At like,
Yeah,
that's not the normal experience. Yeah, that's an exception.
You do have bad luck.
Dude, yeah.
Well, Eric, this has been super fun, man.
Yeah, man, it's always great to chat with you.
Yeah, of course.
It's been fun having you on our show every now and then as well. Hopefully you can come on again soon.
I appreciate the invites. The last time you invited me, I was like, I had just gotten home from like being gone for like a month, and I was like, I am just not in the right headspace for this. Cool, man.
I can feel you on that.
Yeah. Thanks for joining me for another great episode. A huge thank you to Eric Bennett for coming back on the show and sharing his thoughtful perspective on how we as photographers can navigate social media with intention and stay grounded in what really matters, our connection to the natural world and to our audience. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank our latest Patreon supporters, Charlie Vandenbroek, Todd Marsh, Tom Westbrook, and Jill Kyle. Your support means the world to me, and it directly helps to keep this podcast alive. This show runs on the value for value model, which means if you get something out of these weekly conversations, I ask that you please consider giving something back. Whether it's a few dollars a month, sharing the show with a friend, or helping spread the word, every little bit helps. The truth is, the costs of producing this podcast have increased dramatically, and I can't do it without listener support. If you enjoy what I'm creating and you want to see it continue, please consider joining the community at patreon.com/fstopandlisten. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to my newsletter. You'll be the first to hear about upcoming giveaways, new episodes, and all the other cool stuff that I've got in the works. Thanks for stopping in, collaborating with us, and listening. See you next week.